Welcome to The Rock. We hope what you watch today inspires you, and we'd love to hear your questions and comments via Twitter at The Rock of York. You can also find us on Facebook or contact us through the website at www.rockofyork.co.uk. In the meantime, let's crack on.
Wake up. Everyone is looking for a convincing story that gives them a sense of purpose. We have one. People are precious. Your life counts. You can thrive. When we know who we are, we know what to do. We believe in new beginnings and second chances. In a joy that overcomes. In a love that endures. We are participating in the restoration of all things. God is love. God is on your side. God keeps no record of wrongs. God is in you. Jesus reveals God's heart. Jesus offers us a revolutionary way of living that we are choosing to follow. We enter this sacred space through faith, hope, and love. Faith is your decision to place your belief and trust in the goodness and faithfulness of God. Hope is the confident expectation that the last word has not been spoken. Love is felt, received, and done. We have been to hell and back and found it's not there, and discovered heaven is where we begin. Welcome to our house.
I've been hearing symphonies. Before all I heard was silence. A rhapsody for you and me. And every melody is timeless. Life was bringing me along. Then you came and you got me loose. With solo singing on my own. Now I can find the key without you. And now your song is on repeat. And I'm dancing on to your heartbeat. But when you're gone, I'm feeling complete. So if you want the truth, I just wanna be part of your symphony. Will you hold me tight and not let go?
story that happened to me in September. I went away on holiday in September and with a load of friends to Ibiza, and we had a really lovely holiday. It was more of a family holiday, even though I said Ibiza. It was more of a family holiday. And on one of the days that we were there, we went out on these pedalos into the sea, and these were pedalos that had slides on them. Has anybody been on a pedalo with a slide? Few people have been on a pedalo. They're a lot of fun, hard work, harder than they look from the beach. But we went out and we took 2 pedalos with slides because there was that many of us. And we got quite far out, and we'd left one of the guys behind sorting something out, and he said, I'll just swim out. You can't go that far in. I'll swim out and catch you up. And so we're out on these pedalos, not controlling them very well at all. Well, I wasn't controlling ours very well at all, me and the girl pedaling ours. And we kept crashing all the time. Anyway, we finally got to a nice spot, and this guy swam up, and he climbed onto the other one. He said, I'm going to go down the slide first. So he came out of the water, and he slid down the slide, and the slide was like one of those ones into the water. Anyway, he flew down this slide and went shooting off, and we all sort of cheered from the side like British tourists. And he came and swam back and got back on it again. Anyway, after watching it happen, and the girl that was on the boat, his wife, said, I'm going to go on it. So she climbed up the same slide, and down she went. And she was dry. She hadn't been swimming, but she got onto the slide, and she flew down it, and off she went to the side, and we all cheered again, like British tourists. And then a guy on my boat, he's called Joe, well, not my Joe, another Joe, and he said, I'm going to go on it next. Now, this particular Joe, he's fairly slim, but slightly rounder at the front. And he climbed up this slide, and he's like, I'm going, and everybody's watching and cheering. Now, we were in control of the boat at this point, and as he climbed the steps, it started shuffling forwards towards the back of the other pedalo. So the other pedalo people are going, stop, just reverse. And I'm going, how do I reverse on a pedalo? Apparently you pedal backwards. It's as simple as that. But anyway, so I'm like trying to reverse this pedalo backwards as we're getting further towards this other boat. And he just suddenly goes, I'm off. And he decided in his wisdom to go head first down this bumpy slide. Now, the key to this story is that nobody went before him. He climbed this slide as a dry human being, slightly portly at the front, onto a bumpy slide, and set off with great vigour, I will say, and got stopped at the first hump by his belly. Like, you could almost hear the squeak on the slide, and his legs kind of like went over the top. And we couldn't see anything because we're sitting under the slide. We can just see the other pedalo going, reverse, as like his jolt sent us further forward towards the other pedalo. So I'm trying to reverse, and I'm pedaling. And then he's decided he's going to go again, so he kind of like seal-like flopped himself forward and got stopped at the second hump with like quite a jolt, which flew us even closer to the back of the other pedalo. And the squeak that came from the second jolt, like, it makes you want to hold your stomach, the pain that he must have felt. And so the other pedalo are like covering their eyes, watching. And as he starts wiggling himself to get free, we could just see his arms over the side of the slide. And my friend, who's his wife, next to me, is laughing till she can't even see she's laughing that much. And our whole pedalo's rocking side to side. And like, we're trying to reverse it backwards, and with one almighty like leap, he flew down this thing. And our pedalo went forward, and he smashed his head on the back of the pedalo in front, and then disappeared into the sea. At which point, our wet friend, who had just swum up, dived in and sort of rescued him. And he was fine. Well, we should have been more concerned, but if I'm honest, I don't think I've ever laughed that much in my entire life. Like, I couldn't pedal, I couldn't do anything, my belly was hurting, I was laughing. But he came up and he was like, I don't know what made the difference. I don't know why. Martin just flew down his slide. Tony followed him, she flew down the slide. But he got stuck on every possible hump on the way down. And then when I was just sitting there then, listening to us singing the symphony song, I was thinking sometimes, this isn't normal church, is it? This isn't what you would expect from church, for us to be singing songs from the charts. And actually, we have made an attempt to go a bit further than some would in doing church a little bit differently. But also, some of our message might not be what you would expect from church sometimes, because we've made a bit of an effort to go a bit further. And I don't know whether this is your first time in any church, in which case you're probably thinking, well, do you know, why are we singing this song? Like, this is a bit different. Or if it's your first time in this church and you're thinking, well, this is a bit unusual. Or even if you've been in this church your whole life and are thinking some of these messages are quite hard to get over. Well, I want to encourage you that we have people in this house who have gone in front of you. And they have gone before you, so you're not going to have to get stuck on some of these humps along the way, because we have battled those out. And if you've ever been here on a Wednesday night, some of that stuff, we have battled that out, and we have wet the hump ahead of you, so to speak. We'll put it out that way. You can quote that one in something. We've wet the hump ahead of you to allow that your journey and your transition down the slide to be smoother than ours perhaps would have been. And I want to encourage you that actually, if you're thinking, well, this isn't what I would expect from a church, that actually, we believe this is exactly what church should be. And we're excited about the things that we're doing. And there will be more things that we are going to have to deal with ahead of time, more things that we are challenging, more things that we are questioning. And I don't want you to sit there and think, well, I just don't know if I can get over that hump, because it looks quite difficult. I want to encourage you tonight that there are people in here who want to assist you over that hump. They want to make the transition smooth. They want to make it fun, if possible. And they want to make it something that will change your life rather than burden you in your life. So I don't want you to sit there and think, well, this isn't what I expect from church, so I don't really know what to do with that. I want you to embrace the moment and think, these are really exciting things that are going on. The songs that are being sung, the messages that are being brought, they might be different, but it doesn't have to be difficult. Actually, it can be a really great experience. Enjoy your night.
Reaching my hand to your
right, you all are in good voice tonight. So I'd love somebody to make a video with one of these where you cut and move it of our great new promo statement for the church. We have wet the hump ahead of you. Please come, we have wet the hump ahead of you. It's great. All right, let me give you the important notices last because you'll forget those. So, okay, if you've never filled in a welcome card, please grab one, fill it in. Love to keep you in touch with all that's going on here, and we'll pay it forward as we do at the end of the service. The easiest way to do that is on My Donate, which you can find on the website, and then you can do it all on your phone and pay as much as you like. Okay, this advert. How many of you were Vicar of Dibley fans or are Vicar of Dibley fans? And wonderful Jim. We have a Jim on here tonight. It's no. Parking is available at the Rock from the 29th November to the 6th of December. So is that no parking's available or parking is available? No. Parking is available. If you've never watched Vicar of Dibley, it's all right, just. No parking is available, okay, from 29th of November to 6th of December. So get that in your diary. None at all, either side, okay. We have to restrict the parking for all that's going on. So please help us with that one. Also, the Grotto Rota is complete. If you haven't had a copy, see Amy tonight, then you'll know what you're doing to help with the Grotto, which is just a few weeks away, 2 or 3 weeks away, isn't it? Most. Also, we've been nominated for an award for the best Christmas experience for Narnia. However, as with all nominations, they are no more than nominations. So if you want us to win, you need to vote for us. So there should be a web page on screen, according to Amy's note. There you go. It's the Little Vikings one. If you go to that and give us a vote, and we might get an award for the best Christmas experience Narnia. But it's great anyway that we have been nominated. So that's wonderful. Okay. On the 6th of January, remember how a couple of times we've had Our House at Your House. And on the 6th of January, because of the Christmas holidays and the New Year's week and what have you, and various other things that are happening, we're going to have Our House at Your House. So we're going to have some nominated houses, and we will meet around the city in the different houses. If you would like to make your house available for Our House at Your House, can you see Amy for the 6th of January? And we'd love you to do that and gather some people together. So we just need some names for that. Also, Lost Properties in the corner tonight, so go and have a gander. It's amazing how much we grab from that. Okay, two important ones I want you to listen. On Wednesday night this week, we were going to do what we call operational leaders. So those of you who know you're operational leaders, that means you either lead a group or a kind of second in command to any one of the groups that minister to this house. We'd like you to be there. I'm asking you to be there. Make it a priority to be there this Wednesday night. But also, everybody who's not in that group, you're also welcome. So if you're on board with us and you're interested and excited and want us to be a success in our move to Q Church in January, then you are also invited. So nobody's excluded, but I would specifically like people who have responsibility or who are assisting people with responsibility. Be here, do your best Wednesday night, because we're going to share some of the vital information of the changes that will occur when we move to BQ Church. So please be here Wednesday night, 7:30. The other thing is as well, I was just in Austria last week teaching in the Leadership Academy in the beautiful city of Salzburg. And I do that for my friend and a friend of this house who we've supported financially and personally for over 20 years. And that's Gianni Gaeta, who's the leader of Life Churches of Austria, which we have helped to grow quite significantly across the nation. Our input and our finances have helped that progress. Well, Gianni and Angela are here next Saturday night. So make it a priority to be here next Saturday night for Our House at 6:45. And Gianni and Angela Gaeta will be here, and Gianni will be speaking to us next Saturday night. So please make a point of that. Okay, just some quickies which would be worth letting you know because December is going to be a very busy month. And we're also on the run-up to moving to Kew in January. So we've got the grotto on the 9th, the 10th, the 16th, and the 17th, so that's busy. A lot of people working. We're doing a gingerbread house workshop on the 11th, okay? So if you want to fancy your skills or bring somebody to build gingerbread house on the 11th, please come. We're going to do that on the Wednesday. What day is that? The 11th? It's a Monday. It's a Monday night. And then on the 16th, the Saturday night, it will be our house, but it's going to be Yada at our house. So it will be a night of dance and music and performance. Invite somebody, bring them in. It's going to be an awesome night. That's the 16th of December. And then we're doing again the Micklegate Mingle on the 18th, which is all the businesses in Micklegate. We'll have Santa and the reindeer outside. We're going to be performing in here as well, inviting people in to come and get warm and see what's going on here. So we'd love you to come along, be part of the community that night, just to help us and be here and just create an atmosphere, because we want to make our presence felt for all the people who'll be on the Micklegate Mingle. And then one more. Because of our busyness, we decided that on the 23rd, which is the Saturday before Christmas, we won't have our house here. But I and a lot of us are going to go to Holy Trinity in Micklegate for the 11 o'clock service to support Eric. Now, it is a style that does not suit me. It's a way of doing church that's not my favorite. But Eric is one of my favorite people. And I want to bless Eric. I want to be a friend to Eric. I want to help Eric and show him that actually we may have different styles and we may be ministering to different parts of the community, but we're one together in this purpose of the wonderful message of Christ into our community. So on the 24th, our plan is to go there and be with Eric. Okay, and we'd love as many of you as can go to be there. Now, I just need to tell you, please observe when it starts, because he usually comes into bells and smells, with a little procession and the bells and the incense and the cross. I want that. I don't see why you guys have never given me that. Where I don't get the big entrance with the incense and the cross and what's all that about? I don't know. Anyway, if you go, you might learn something, and then we'll give it a shot. All right, so most importantly for me is particularly Wednesday night. Please come. We want you to know where we're heading, what we're going to do as we move to Kew. So let me pray for you. Father, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight as community. Thank you that we don't have to cry out to heaven to get you to come down, or cry into the depths to get you to come up, but you're already here, you're present. You're willing, you're available, and your blessing is there for every individual in this place. I pray no heart will leave before they've received something amazing from you tonight that has touched a need in their life. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, guys.
You've examined my heart, and Lord, you know me. There's no use pretending. You
Okay, before the kids go out, I'll show you a little video. Also, to say there's some things we can talk about after Wednesday when we've talked to who wants to be here, but there's lots of interesting stuff connected to our journey and lots of things that seem to be happening supernaturally. Cues are popping up everywhere. You know, Kev, who's helping us with some others with our logo design, got a watch, and the thing for removing the battery is a cue, and the cue's like in the shape that we're thinking of using for the logo, and it all gets very... Anyway, what I also found interesting is, of course, we have some connection with Salt Lake City, and we'll talk a little bit about that on Wednesday as well, but I found it fascinating that this Sunday I should be away in the middle of what really is a journey to something fresh, is that I should actually be based this time in the Leadership Academy for the first time, for the whole of the time, in Salzburg. Now, if any of you know anything about German, Salz is salt, and Berg is tower or castle or fortress. So I was in the Salt Fortress all of last week, sharing stuff that's right at the core and at the heart of our thing. So they're all little things, but lots of little things that just point us in a direction. Anyway, this was on Facebook this week, and I think it's just a good. I've been married for 41 years to this wonderful lady, and some of you just married, Sarah, wherever she is, there, and Amy. So you can take this home to your fellas, say, you need to watch this. This is I'm getting some very important understanding about being a husband for the long haul tonight. So you can just have a little look at this, only 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
About to get real, baby. I know what love means to you. The party is through. It's just me and you. Everyone has left our home. Girl, we're finally alone. Wave goodbye to the guests. You know what's next. I understand. We'll light your fire. We've been married 20 years. I know what you want, my dear. I'll go get the vacuum and take it from here. I'll clean up for you like you want me to. You see, turn off all the lights and I'll be alright. Lock the doors for you. Sweep the floor for you, and I'll put down the kids so you don't have to, baby, slip into what you want. Put your baggy sweatpants on, your favorite ones with a Nutella stain down the front. Go watch some Apple TV, Parks and Rec, all Downtown. Turn off all the lights, and I'll be alright. Lock the doors for you. Check the bathroom too, and I'll put down the seat so you don't fall through. Baby, baby. Hey, thank you, California. You did amazing. Yeah, remember, I will clean up for you. Yeah.
All right, that's Tim Hawkins, who's a great comedian, does the church circuit along with another guy called John Christ. Do you want another one? Just one more before we let the kids out. Just one. This one's not as good quality. Now, just bear in mind that the Americans call leggings yoga pants. Okay, just bear that in mind. I'll give you one more.
the homeschooler's like, oh, it's going to get dumb now. The other stuff is really cool, but this is going to be dumb. I write that with my quill pen I made from a chicken feather. Okay, dumbest song ever. This is just a little slice of life. Here we go. My wife was out for 3 days to visit her mom. I was supposed to cook and clean while she was gone. Somehow she never buckles under all the demands. I had to know her secret, I had to understand. Well, I thought it might be coffee, but that gives her the shakes. It might be soap operas, but she says they're too fake. It's not the car she drives or what she puts in her hair. I realized it's got to be something that she wears. Yoga pants. She wears them all day. Yoga pants. At work and at play. Yoga pants. What's all the fuss? What makes them so special that they keep them from us? Well, any normal person would leave it alone. But I'm not a normal person and nobody was home. My wife was out of town and the kids were outside. I went into the bedroom and decided I would try yoga pants. So stretchy and thin, yoga pants, feels like my own skin. Yoga pants. Where you been all my life? I've never done yoga, but these make me want to try yoga pants. So soft and so sleek. Yoga pants. Oh, feels good on my cheek. Yoga pants. These are the best. If you're waiting for a video, don't hold your breath.
All right, plenty of those online if you want to go and look for them. All right, Little Life Zone and Crash. You are released. And I don't know, sort of hanging around. There's one. Seems to be a recurring theme that I can't quite shake out of my spirit at the moment, and I think it's very important, and I think if some of you could get a release in this tonight. It comes from two little angles, really, and what I want to say tonight is what's in a name. There are at least 4 instances in the Bible of God changing a person's name and recognizing them for who they have become, not who they were. So you have Abraham who becomes Abraham. You have Jacob who becomes Israel. You have Simon who becomes Peter. You have Saul who becomes Paul. And you have another instance which is Jesus who becomes Christ. All of these changes of name are indicative of the fact that those people are no longer what they were, but the name has been changed because of who they have become. It's important that they be called by a new name to reflect the new place to which they had come. For all of them, it came out of a struggle of one kind or another. Wrestling was involved, physical, mentally, and spiritually, but nevertheless, there was a change. And so I say that just to really support the issue that we are changing our name as a church because of who we have become and who we are becoming, much like happened in the Bible, because I believe we have been on a journey of encounter that has brought us to a place where it's necessary that we note who we have become. But there is a personal question as well, because this applies to all of us in life, and the question is, who are you becoming? Every one of you is becoming someone The question is, who is that someone who you're becoming? Do you even like that someone who you're becoming? Would you like to be someone else? Do you think there's anything you can do about who you are becoming? Or do you think it's a done deal that can never be changed? And really, if the truth be known, this question is at the root of all our well-being. There has never been a time where mental health has been more prolific than it is now, and yet we have more stuff and more things and more self-help books and more aid and more information, and yet we have an increase of mental health and different mental health conditions being diagnosed all the time that we don't even have names for, and now we put names on them. But all of them are related to our inability to know who we really are and to deal with the issue of what we are becoming. The rate of teen suicide is frightening in the UK, and it's all based around the pressure of who am I supposed to become, who am I becoming? And every week young people and adults take their own life because of struggling with this issue. Who are you becoming? Who's in control of who you're becoming? Well, the truth is some of you have given control of who you're becoming to someone else and to something else. For some of you, the power of who you are becoming rests in the fact that you have never dealt with who you were and where you came from and what your parents were like and what situation you were raised in. See, at the beginning of what would be a new direction in Jesus' life, the Gospels talk about an experience that Jesus had, and that experience was him being led into the desert. And in that experience in the desert, which you can read in Luke chapter 4, I'll read you 2 verses in just a moment, the primary obstacle thrown up by the devil, whoever the devil was, whatever the devil is, by the devil, this is how it describes it, it was to challenge his perception of his identity. There was a challenge to who do you think you are? Because if I can cause that to be defective, I can affect the whole course of your life. And that challenge comes in thousands of ways. It comes through peer pressure. Who do you think you are? And so many of you do what you do, behave how you behave, act the way that you act, simply because you want the approval of your peers, because you feel if your peers approve of you, you will approve of you, and if they like you, you will like you, and yet it never works. One of the problems with that is the pressure. That if you are liked because of what you do to please your peers, then you're always wondering, what must I do next in order to keep that approval from my peers? And so your life is never your own. It always belongs to somebody else, and you become shaped by those choices. Listen to me, it's far less important that others know who you are than that you know who you are. And we spend far too much time trying to impress onto others who we'd like them to think that we are when we've never resolved the issue in our own life, who we are. Once you've resolved who you are, you really don't care that much who other people think you are because you're at peace over who you know that you are. So those 2 verses in Luke chapter 4 and verse 1 and 2 said, Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan. He just had his baptism. At the baptism, he had an experience. In that experience, he made a discovery. The discovery that he made is that God really liked him. In fact, God liked him so much that God says, hey, I don't know if you realize it, son, but I'm your dad. And if I'm your dad, you're my son. And if you're my son, I'm your dad. And there was this amazing moment of understanding for Jesus of who he really was and how that related to the divine and therefore what he could expect in his life. So he returned from that baptism, and it says he was led by the Spirit in the desert where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. I think that's amazing that Spirit would lead him into a desert. It's like, gee, thanks, Spirit. That was very kind of you to lead me into this desert. But may I suggest to you that the reason for it talking about Spirit leading Jesus in the desert is because if you don't fix this in the desert, you ain't going to fix it in life. So you're going to have to face it, because if you don't face it, you won't fix it. So you have to be in a position where you face it. So the deserts of our lives, the time when we feel lonely, the time when we feel unfulfilled, the time when it's just not happening, actually could be more to do with the Spirit of God than the situation of life, because if you don't face it, you can't fix it. Now, what we don't want to do really is face it. We want to fake it and not face it. We want reality shows that are not reality so we can pretend that that's reality, and then we can try to live in that reality and call it reality when all the time we know it's not reality at all. We want to fake it rather than fix it. But the only way to know who you truly are and become secure in your own skin and to find your place under the divine, under God, in this world and purpose is not to fake it but to fix it. Now, I would dare to say there are as many people sat in churches like this on a weekend who are faking it as there are of fixing it, who know how to play the religious game, because we always find how to play the game of the community that we happen to belong to. And we can look like we're supposed to look and sound like we're supposed to sound and do what we're supposed to do, but all the time faking it and not fixing it. Marriages that are unhappy, that look happy when we're sat together smiling in church. All of these things, faking it, not fixing it. So the Holy Spirit himself, God's Spirit, will lead you into deserts to help you to fix it and not fake it. And to fix it, you have to face it. But facing it is not pleasant, but face it is the way to fix it. So the way to deal with our identity issues is that we have to face them. So he was led by the Spirit in the desert, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. Okay? Tempted by the devil, 40 days. All he can see is sand and more sand. Life's a beach. Might have crossed his mind. And for some of you, it crosses your mind just about every day. See, the challenge was, if you are who you think you are, prove it. If you're the Son of God, if you're command these stones to be made bread. In other words, the only way you can assure who you are is to try and prove it. Or in other words, you have to do stuff, but actually doing stuff never proves who you are. Doing stuff just proves that you're trying to influence somebody else to think that you are who you say that you are, because if you are who you say you are, you don't have to be doing stuff to prove it. So Jesus was led into the desert to show how important it is to deal with the question, what or who is defining my identity? So I'll put that question to you tonight. What or who is defining your identity? It's a very important question. It's an important question because for some of you, people who you don't even see, who are not even around, who you have nothing to do with, are defining your identity. For some of you, it's things that happened, that divorce that happened, that relationship that broke down, that loss that occurred, defining your identity. History still defining your identity. Unless you deal with it, you won't fix it. Unless you face it, you won't fix it. But you've got to come into the desert where you face it in order that you can fix it. And in the desert, you're confronted with it, but you're confronted for a reason. Because the thing is, Jesus went into the desert facing the question, what and who is defining my identity? But he was also led into it to show how you come out of it. Which it goes on to say he came back in the power of the Spirit. Whatever happened, because he faced it, to fix it, meant that he came out with the power in his spirit, not weakened, not undermined, but full of who he was in a confidence of that being. And some of you, until you fix that, you'll keep faking it. And until you face it, you won't fix it. You'll keep going into the desert until you resolve this question and can answer it with confidence. If you don't find your identity in something other than your history, you are heading for trouble. I've been in some of that trouble. There's been times when coming here has been for me like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And there's been times when it's been the rock on which I could anchor my life and my spirit. There've been times because my identity was connected to other people's thoughts about me that I have been crushed rather than helped, not because of their fault, but because of my unwillingness to face that I didn't know who I was, and therefore who I was being determined by how many people was here. You know, we're growing again. We lost a few people. We're growing again. When we were at our biggest, I was probably at my most unhappiest. Because I was all the time worried about how do we keep all these people? How do we maintain this? How do I uphold my identity in this by not losing these people? So every little thing becomes a pain. So what appears to be success actually becomes unhappiness because outwardly it's there, but inwardly my identity was too tied into all of this and how well do I think I'm doing and are we being successful and what's going on. And all of us can be like that in whatever we do. If you don't find your identity in something other than your history, you're heading for trouble. Jesus responds to what are called the temptations of the devil, 3 of them that were designed to undermine his confidence in who he was that it is written. Now, I wasn't trying to be some Bible basher. That wasn't the quoting text at the devil, you know. I mean, everybody can do it. I've done that. I've been in religious circles long enough to know we've got a text for every occasion, and every equation. And we can quote text like a AK-47 assault rifle. But Jesus wasn't trying to quote text. When he said it is written, it was a declaration that his identity was rooted in something beyond himself and something beyond this world. So there are 2 aspects to our identity. It must be rooted in something beyond yourself, but it also must be rooted in something beyond this world. Because if you're rooted in something beyond yourself in this world, that is as temporal as the situation you were in before. And guess what? People let you down. Situations let you down. Life changes. Friends that you thought you would be with forever suddenly decide they don't want to be with you because you don't give benefit to their life anymore, so they don't understand friendship. So if you only root your identity in something beyond yourself, but it's temporal, you've only put a temporary fix on the problem. So you've got to not only do it beyond yourself, but you've also got to set that identity beyond this world, in God, in the Father, in the Father's love, in the Jesus of the Gospels. Not necessarily the Jesus of religion. I'm giving you the right not to choose the Jesus of religion, the Jesus of the Gospels, the Jesus of Abba, the Jesus who loved his enemies, the Jesus who did something greater in his success than Adam did in his failure, that Jesus. So if you have not yet resolved this issue, please don't be mad at everybody. Because when we haven't resolved the issue of our own identity, we have an awful tendency to be mad at other people. Like somehow it's their fault. And if only people did this, and if only people didn't do that. Please don't be mad at everybody, because the issue is Jesus was taken alone into the desert because the issue was in his heart, and that's where the issue is. The issue is in your heart. So who is the devil that you face there? I used to just read that and think, you know, there was the devil. Obviously, he didn't have pitchfork and horns, but I liked the Ewan McGregor film, Last Days in the Desert, where this lonely figure's walking across the desert and he sees a man approaching him, and as the man gets nearer, he realizes it's himself. So in that movie, whether it's theologically correct, doctrinally correct or not, I think there is some massive truth in it, that in the movie it was giving room that could it be that the greatest devil we ever face, the greatest challenge to our identity and who we are, is actually ourselves. I don't fear some mythical, spiritual creature. I'm much more frightened of me than I am of any devil, any demon, any spirit, any ghoul, any goblin. I'm more frightened of me Because there's more devil can come out of me than ever can come out of those. And the devil that can affect me is often the devil that comes out of me. Now, you know, devil is a slanderer, right? That's what a devil is. It's a slanderer. It's somebody who speaks wrong of you. Devil is an accuser. Satan is an accuser. Those words have connotations that we can be the worst devil that we will ever face in the desert of our life. And if we can face down ourselves and the issues that we have in our lives, then the grace of God touches us and brings us out of that desert in the power of the Spirit. So who you are and who you think you are will have a far greater impact on your well-being than anything you will ever do. I think Chris was right last week about the self-editing that goes with the fear that others won't like who you are and will withhold their love. And we're trying to assess those things often in order that we might be in the right place. But let me give you 3 things that are important. Do never fixes who. Do never fixes who. We think the way to fix who we are is by what we do. But do never fixes who. Do makes you tired. Do makes you weary. Do makes you disappointed. Do makes you disillusioned. But do never fixes who. You don't fix who by more do. Here's the second one. Have never fixes who. Because some of you still think, if I have more money, if I have a better qualification, if I have a better job, if I have a husband or a different husband or a wife or a different wife, if I just have another relationship, if I just have more of this, if I just have, that somehow it will fix who you are. But all it will do is leave you poor. And you'll find you've spent all your money and your energy so that you could have something that never fixed the problem, which is the who. For all of us, our peace does not rest in what we do or what we have. Our peace rests in who we are. And when you discover who you are, then you have the peace. So do never fixes who, have never fixes who fixes you. When you know who you are, it fixes you. Jesus had an amazing thing happen being born human when he was baptized, because when he knew who he was, it's like his life exploded into the supernatural. Jesus never did a miracle before that. He hadn't preached a sermon. He hadn't done a miracle. There was nothing of the things that we read to associate with Jesus up to that point of him being baptized. When he was baptized, he discovered who he was, because God said, I'm your Father, I love you, I'm pleased with you. And once he knew who he was, then something changed in his life. Once you know who you are, and I would say, put that outside of the dimension of this world. No, once you know who you are to God, then you will know who he is to you. And once you know that, that's when the peace can begin, because you're fixing the thing in the right place. Okay, I told this story the other week. Some of you haven't heard it. I'm riding home with Riley in the car, and he's confused over, you know, where's my mummy, where's my daddy, where's grandma's mummy, where's grandma's daddy, and who are they, and why are they great this, and then he's figuring out that, you know, I am mummy's daddy, but I'm his granddad. Grandma is mummy's mummy, but she's Riley's grandma. So I'm explaining this to him. So I said, so do you understand? I'm your mummy's daddy, but I'm your granddad. And he said, no, you're not. I said, no, yeah, listen, I'm your mummy's daddy, and because I'm your mummy's daddy, that makes me your granddad. No, you're not. Yeah, listen, right, let me explain one more time, okay? So we go through the whole thing. I'm mummy's daddy, so I'm your granddad. And he was getting very angry by this time, and he said, no, you are not. And I said, well, why? He said, you're not my granddad, you're my dad. Now, because biologically, I'm not Riley's dad. But the truth is, I am to Riley who Riley believes I am to him. And the whole dynamic changes because I am to Riley who I believe, I am to Riley who he believes I am to him. And the truth is, God is to you who you believe God is to you. Some of you have a severe God because you believe God is a severe God to you. And so that's all you can see, and it's all that you get. But when you see the God, the Abba, the Father of Jesus, as being the Father, the loving Father, the caring Father, the nurturing Father, when you see him for who he is, that is who he will be to you. Because it's all about identity. Now, let me say a couple of things before I bring this to a close. First of all, living confidently in your own skin does not mean living arrogantly. Because some of you think, well, I know who I am. When the truth is you don't. You are who you think you are because you're kicking back against pain of life, against overbearing parents or controlling leaders. And you think you know who you are when actually you don't really know who you are. All you know is that you're not going to be that. And so what can happen is we don't live in our skin confidently, we live in our skin arrogantly. And we're a pain in everybody else's backside. Because there's no humility, no gentleness, no truth, because actually there isn't a confidence. When you have a confidence of who you are, it mellows the spirit, it brings peace to the heart. So living confidently in your own skin doesn't mean living arrogantly or narcissistically. This is also very important because narcissism is self-love. I love me, and everything should happen because I really love me, and everybody should love me like I love me because I love me and I'm so amazing, and so love me. That's called narcissism. And you've never discovered who you really are. You're heading for the desert once or twice, right? By the Spirit, to have an encounter, to fix it. So the truth is, when we live confidently in our own skin, it doesn't mean living arrogantly, it doesn't mean living narcissistically, it means living peacefully, because actually you've got nothing to prove. You can live at peace with yourself. If you still think you've got something to prove, you haven't resolved who you are. So God is very interested in who you believe you are and helping you to find the place where you know who you are, which the two might be different things, but God is here to help you, just like he was with Jesus. Because the wonderful thing about this encounter that Jesus had, where he knew he was the Son and where he knew God was the Father, once he knew who he was, the interesting thing is when you know who you are, you know what to do. So I'm not striving anymore about what am I supposed to do with my life? What am I supposed to do? For those of you who've been in church, what's the will of God? Have I missed the will of God? Do I know what the will of God is? How do I find the will of God for my life? Because God never said to Jesus, okay, Jesus, now listen to me. This is what you got to do. He said, listen to me, Jesus. This is who you are. And once he knew who he was, he knew what to do. Just look at his life. When he knew who he was, he knew what to do. And when you know who you are, you'll know what to do, and the striving will stop. Okay, one more scripture and a comment, and then we're done. In the Old Testament of the Bible, in 1 Chronicles chapter 4 and verse 9 and 10, there is this interesting little thing that is it just seems totally out of place. If you read it in its context, it's like we've got all these genealogies, and it's like, and then all of a sudden, boom, this is dropped in, and then we just go back to the mundane. It's like, it just is the weirdest thing. But I'm guessing it's because you couldn't pass this guy's name without drawing attention to it. And there is a significance as to why. So here's what it says. Jabez was more honorable than his brothers. His mother had named him Jabez, saying, I gave birth to him in pain. So Jabez's name literally means bringer of pain. The one who causes pain. So his mother named him according to what he had done to her. So her experience was imposed upon him in the form of his name. So he always carried with him the pressure, the difficulty, the problem of his history that he was living, because he never discovered who he was, but he had a moment of awakening. It says, verse 10, so Jabez cried out to the God of Israel. Now I find that interesting that it should be the God of Israel, because the God of Israel is interesting because Israel is the one who was called Jacob. And when God visited Jacob and had a wrestling match with Jacob, God said, I'm going to change your name, and I'm going to change your name from Jacob, which means supplanter or cheat, to Israel, which means prince with God. So Jabez didn't cry out to the God of Jacob, which was his heritage. He cried out to the God of Israel because he knew if Jacob could get his name changed, if he could become a different person, if his identity could be revolutionized, then so can mine. And the God of Israel is still here to change identities. The God of Israel is still here to fix identity problems, to resolve the issue of who you are. And so he said to the God of Israel, "Oh, that you would bless me and enlarge my territory, and let your hand be with me, and keep me from harm, so that I will be free from pain." I love this, and God granted his request. Like, I was waiting for you to realize that you don't have to be defined by your history. That who you are does not have to be the consequence of who people wanted you to be. Who you are is what you discover when you step outside of yourself in this world, but then outside of yourself in the divine, and suddenly you find that the God of Israel, the one who changed Jacob to Israel, is the one who changes you to become someone who you were always supposed to be. So who Jabez saw himself to be without a change was a person defined by someone else's pain and struggle. How many of you see yourself as a person defined by someone else's pain and struggle? And you've never got free, whether you're 16, 20, 25, 55, 75. He saw himself to be without a change. Jabez saw himself to be without a change. He was a person defined by someone else's pain and struggle. He evidently felt that he was not blessed. He actually felt that he was trapped. Please enlarge my boundaries. I'm stuck here. I'm imprisoned. I'm trapped by this stuff. That he was confined and couldn't move on and couldn't move out. He couldn't see a helping hand because he said, "Oh, let your hand be with me." He felt in harm's way because he said, "Keep me from harm." And he felt that pain was his portion because he said, "I want to be free from pain." Some of you think that who you have become right now is all that you can ever be, but actually who you have become is a reaction to and not a repairing of the damage that has been done to you. But my heart today is that there will be a repair of the damage, that there will be a transition, that the God of Israel who changed Jacob to Israel, a prince with God, will change you from being who you have become as a result of the pressures of never having faced the question of who you really are, to become who you are always supposed to be, so that under the Father, as his Son in this world, you will know what to do. Because the wonderful thing is here that out of the recognition of what had been defining his life to that point, he cried out to God, and God granted his request. Out of the recognition of what had been defining his life up to that point, he cried out to God, and God granted his request. Can you see the pattern? Out of the recognition of what had been defining his life to that point, he cried out to God, and God granted his request. Therefore, out of the recognition of what has been defining your life up to this point, as you cry out to God, he will grant you your request. And I believe there's freedom from many of you in here. None of us are exempt from this. I stand here and preach because I have to deliver. I have not been exempt from this. I still have those deserts. And I face the devil of self in there who is trying to undermine my identity in God and in Christ. And he's doing that for you. But my encouragement to you tonight as we just pray is that you will recognize what has been defining your life to this point and cry out to God, and I believe God will grant your request. Just bow your heads for one moment. If that's you, I'm not going to put words in your heart. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. But I think it would be a good idea for you right now, just quietly in your spirit, just to have that conversation with God, the Father of Jesus, the God of Israel, the God who changes names, the God who frees us from faking it so that we can fix it, The God who helps us that when we face it, we can fix it. So he's helping you to face it. Those struggles are because he's helping you to face it. But in facing it, you have to make that recognition of what has been defining your life and cry out, oh God, today, please bless me, enlarge my territory, let your hand be with me, keep me from harm, so that I will be free from pain, and so that you can walk out of that place in the confidence of knowing tonight who you are. And when you know who you are, you have peace. And in that peace of knowing who you are, you know what to do. There's healing for your heart tonight if you will receive it. So Father, right now, I just pray that that healing that comes from you by your Spirit into our humanity and supernaturally transforms us, that connects to our journey but changes us, brings that change that we can't do in the natural, but brings supernatural transformation so that we don't just change name in the natural from a Jacob to an Israel, but we change from a cheat, a supplanter, from a disappointed one, from one who's full of pain, to an Israel, a prince with God, to an Abraham, one who's fruitful for many things, to a Paul, who's a solid place, to a Christ, who's the anointed, gifted one of heaven. I pray for that change tonight, Father. I release it in this house. Pray by your Spirit, do what only you by your Spirit can do, as hearts in here recognize what has defined their identity. But tonight, I want you to grant the request. Heal the hurt, fix the wound, open the eyes, lift the spirit, bring back the light, bring back the hope, and release the future that you have called us into, because you call us by a name that comes from your lips to ours, that lets us know we belong to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, be blessed. We love you. We appreciate you. And we're going to pay it forward, be ready to give, and that's it.
Thousand stories of ones, they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whispers of love.
Thanks for watching. You can find out more about all the Rock is doing locally and internationally at www.rockofyork.co.uk. If you consider yourself part of our growing global community, then why not support The Rock from wherever you are? Just hit the donate button on our homepage to help us help others.